Hello all, this is Crypto Lord Shiagorath here to talk about grid bots, a versatile hedging strategy. To start off with, let's have a disclaimer. None of this is financial advice. This is all for educational purposes. Even when I say you, it's just because trying to make speaking a little bit easier. I'm a human being too. Uh, First of all, let's start with what is a grid bot actually doing? Well, dollar cost averaging to whatever range the price ends up in. That's what it's doing. Every single time it tries to buy and sell within your range, and it's going to get your average buy and your average sell to whatever range the price is actually staying in. It generates small grid profits whenever it stays within that range, and for spot grids, you benefit because it's recompounding, and with futures grids, you tend to have a little bit larger grid profits just because you're using leverage. It tends to be closer to a hedging strategy for leverage bots and a dollar cost averaging strategy for spot bots. So in the end, if the price actually stays within your range for a spot grid, you get a lower and lower entry than you would have if you just done simple DCA. Um, and that's where we're really going to start. The spot grid, we have a great image from BitGet Academy that just shows what it looks like within the bot. The price goes down, it buys, 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 goes up, it sells, sells, sells. And every single one, it's averaging your entry, and profits earned from completing the grids can help offset unfavorable moves. So you've got this spot grid, and of course, that's just long by default. As the price moves down, you're still earning you're still earning from selling above where you bought your last grid at, um, and that can help you sort of recover a position. Spot grids tend to be slow. So when you think about a spot grid, you want to think this is something I'm going to have for months, or this is something I'm going to have for years. It's not a for tomorrow thing. If you're thinking, the price of Bitcoin is about to moon, then you really don't want to set up a spot grid. You just want to buy Bitcoin. Um, it's a DCA substitute above all other things. And there are times when you do want to use just regular DCA instead. There's times where grid bots will make a lot more sense just because you do continuously earn that interest. Um, a trip into the future. Futures grids are going to require a lot more specific convictions than just a DCA like you would for a spot grid. They're going to offer a wider range of support for your market ideas than most people consider when they're building them. In many cases, you actually want to use a futures grid backwards just because you're trying to average your price up when you're short or average your price down when you're long. And you get a lot more benefits if you use the full capabilities of the grid bot. Higher leverage is going to reduce the available range. If you're using, 20x leverage, there's only so far that the price can really move within your range before either you've sold all of the coins that you have or you went into liquidation. And you don't have to start a futures grid with parameters that include the current price. You can set it up sort of like a trap. If you want, you can have a short grid way above the price and say, you know what, I think it's going to spike into there and then it's going to hang out for a little bit and come right back down. And then you get the benefit of shorting all the way up into it, covering all the way down out of it. And there you go. You have all of those grid profits um, just right there. Um, a couple of ideas for grids, and I really don't want to go over all of them. But I think the most important ones are going to be when you should not set up a grid. I have no expectations for what happens after consolidation, how long it's going to last. I'm just not going to set up a grid. Or I expect price to move in one solid direction straight away. I'm not going to set up a grid. There has to be both an expectation of a range of the the trade to range around for a while and for it to come back. You're looking for two moves, not just one straight move. And that's where it tends to be a lot better of a hedge because you don't have to call the absolute top. You have an idea of where it might come down from, or you have an idea of where it might come up from, and you put in your grids based on your expectations, based on your market ideas. It is definitely something I can't stress enough that requires a conviction about the market. Now you can just get lucky sometimes. You can put in and then it goes absolutely the wrong way for you, stays that way, but it hangs out within your bot's range long enough that you can eventually close for profit. But that's not what anyone hopes for. Um, just some tips on the parameters. First of all, grid bots don't have any benefit when price moves outside your range. You really do have to think a little bit more than just clicking the AI picks on KuCoin as an example. You have to say, okay, so where do I think that the top could be? What is the top of this range? And give it some extra room. Where do I think the bottom could be? Where's the bottom of this range? Give it some extra room. If you're doing it as a hedging strategy, completely you probably want to have it completely closed when it gets over some trigger that you think might be bearish. You know, you have this long grid and you're like, okay, if it drops below here, it's probably not coming back up or not coming back into my grid. So you would want to make sure that you actually think about these ranges. The closer the starting price is to the top of your range for a short grid or the bottom of your range for a long grid, the bigger the position that you start out with. These entries are automatically scaled. So if you start in the exact middle, you just click the AI strategy, it starts you off 50 above, 50 below. Um, what you have is half of your grid bot is in the position already. So half of it's long if it's a long grid, half of it's short if it's a short grid. And what you tend to see is that a lot of times that's not really exactly what you wanted to do, is it? Like if you're thinking, I really want to see most of the buys below the current price, then you don't want to set it up with 50 above, 50 below. That's just going to ruin your day. Um, the other thing that's really important is the maximum number of grids is going to dollar cost average a lot faster just because it's generating more trades. It's going to DCA faster. It's going to make those grid profits a lot faster. But because of trading fees, you earn a lower percent from smaller grids than you do with larger grids. It's just you have to pay for each and every trade. That's where the sexes get their money. So you're going to have a lot better returns per grid with a lower number of grids, just because you're not paying as much for each of them. And so you've really got to take that into account. Maybe if you're expecting sort of medium-sized moves within the range, you think it's going to be really volatile today, but just end up right back where it is. Well, maybe you want to have smaller number of grids so that you're trading more each grid and you've got that wider range. If you think that you can call the top or the bottom, you just set a limit order. Give your bot some room. You don't have to know exactly where it's going to turn around. You don't have to think about anything like that. You just have to make sure that it stays within your range, that it stays within your idea. You have to have an expectation and follow through. Um, some examples of grids that I've done. The first one, PAX G Spot. It's earning about 10% a year in gold just from the grid APR. It compounds. It's something that I believe in long term. So I'm treating it like an investment. I want to be earning and compounding as much gold as I possibly can. I think that's a great plan for me. I put a Bitcoin short above the price. Bitcoin went up into the grid range. It hung out for a while, came right back down, And I got the benefits of having shorted small amounts multiple times with a lot lower risk than if I just, set up a short. Um, BNB long below the price. I was expecting it to drop temporarily and come back to its $300 peg. XRP long at price. I closed when it corrected after a drop. I got grid profits, appreciation profits, DCA profits. Short at price, just the reverse. Closed when it corrected after a pump for grid and appreciation profits. One of the more interesting ones is a Bitcoin long at price. I closed below my entry for a small profit when it became clear I was wrong about the trend. Um, there's there's a lot of different ideas, a lot of ways that you can manage these, and I think people, when considering grid bots, are looking at them two-dimensionally. They're not really thinking about everything that goes into a grid. Just to wrap up, grids are powerful tools for hedging, for building positions, for cost averaging your entry. They do require conviction about your trade ideas, just like any other trade. You must have ideas and expectations for the market, and you've got to choose a grid strategy that reflects what you believe will happen. Um, so that's what I've got for grids today. If you have any questions, comments, just leave them into the comment section. Contact me on Discord. Um, like and subscribe. Hope you have a great day.